Hi, I'm Cece Baranik, and I've decided to research the topic of eating disorders among female athletes. This demographic ranges from non-professional to professional athletes and can be at any age. I chose this topic because I found a personal connection with it. I used to dance as a kid, and in 5th grade, my studio closed down because of poor management, and I was forced to find a new studio to dance at. And during my search, I auditioned at numerous studios, 2 of which responded back to my mother saying that I did not fit the standard of body image that they were holding to their students at the studio. So even as young as 5th grade, a girl could be deemed ineligible and not allowed to dance at a specific studio because her body shape does not fit their standard. So I think that is a clear indicator at the severity and widespread phenomenon that leads to eating disorders among women who are participating in some kind of sport, whether that be soccer, dance, any gymnastics, specifically sports that do show off women's bodies are more susceptible. However, any and all sports are a possible environment to feed into eating disorders among women.
So why are female athletes so susceptible to developing eating disorders? There are 3 main impacting factors, one of which is the sports world environment. This means that coaches, peers, fellow players could be enforcing this kind of behavior and making it seem this is a probable solution to be most successful on the team. Also, societal standards for women's appearance play a huge role. Society, especially Western society, emphasizes a specific physique that most women feel they need to look like, and this definitely impacts athletes because they are on display. Lastly, there are common characteristics that most female athletes possess which have allowed them to be successful in this field but can later on turn into very detrimental characteristics towards their health. Go ahead and pause this video and engage with me on the chat on the common characteristics that you think most successful female athletes have that could later be impacting their mental and physical health in a negative way. So these characteristics are what I like to call double-edged traits. What served as a strength for the female athletes to begin with can quickly turn into a weakness. These include high drive to achieve, perfectionism, low self-awareness, Western society emphasis on youthfulness, thinness, and beauty, as well as gender stereotypes and the drive to prove those wrong. One of the traits I'd like to highlight is the difference in expectations for men versus women. This slide offers a clear representation at how those differences can affect both men and women. Concerning anorexia, women are more than twice as likely to develop this eating disorder than men, and this reflects Western standards of beauty.
Next, I'm going to play a video for you from ABC News about a female athlete's personal experience with eating disorders and how her team and the sports industry in Australia is making efforts to help.
Swim should have been the pinnacle of Paralympian Jess Smith's career. She remembers it very differently.
At that height was also one of my lowest times because my eating disorder basically destroyed my career.
A personal battle she'd struggled with from the age of 13 in an event she was expected to bring home a medal. She didn't even make the finals.
And I returned to Australia, and I knew at that point it was a moment of life or death, in the sense that if I continue to go down the road of anorexia and bulimia, I wouldn't be here today.
The Australian Institute of Sport fears many elite athletes are battling similar issues.
The worst thing that we can do for the athlete is do nothing. Yes, we might feel uncomfortable, but the matter has to be raised.
That's why the AIS has partnered with the National Eating Disorders Collaboration, which has identified the heightened risk in competitive sports.
People who are involved in activities where their weight and shape is part of how they're going to be evaluated or how they're going to perform.
The Institute has spent the past 3 years collating resources to better identify the early warning signs and help each sport to develop its own prevention and treatment plan.
So you need to be aware of how you may be having an impact in no matter what role you actually play.
Kerry Leach works with Netball Australia and is the leading nutritionist for the Diamonds.
And I think we need to start being able to identify these athletes and offer a little bit more support wherever possible.
So this is not just a role for doctors, not just a role for dietitians, not just a role for psychologists.
The AIS wants a collaborative approach and fears in the past the lack of communication between coaches, staff and medical professionals was part of the problem. It's also hoped more education will be offered to teammates, who are often the first to pick up on the early warning signs.
There were people there, but they weren't really working together. I think that we realise now that it has to be a team approach.
And promoting the message, the athlete's health is priority over performance. Brittany Klein, ABC News.
I believe the behavioral theory is most relevant when concerning these eating disorders because they are undoubtedly linked with the environment, which supports this kind of behavior. I believe applying operant conditioning, which is a method of learning that rewards and punishes specific behavior to female athletes, eating disorders, and unhealthy habits, could change the negative connotation associated with eating and the success of the athletic career. Strengths to applying the operant conditioning method would include that this is not environment specific. So if an athlete were to find themselves in a new environment or situation, these healthy habits that they have worked hard to develop will still be present. This could also serve as a motivator and inspiration for fellow athletes to do the same. Weaknesses associated with applying operant conditioning method include that societal expectations will remain the same. There will still be expectations for women to appear a certain way, which means that this will be an active fighting force, fighting against the female athletes that they must endure and persevere through every single day. Their performance may also suffer as a result of developing these new priorities. Prior, sports and performance was the only priority, so now that mental health and physical health is playing a role, this could result in weakening performance. Overall, eating disorders will remain to be a prominent issue among female athletes until society and the world prioritizes athletes' health over their performance. Until this is done, this fighting force will impact athletes' ability to prioritize what is most important.